Welcome back to Quiz Mindset. If this is your first time joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are super excited to have you here with us. Listen, it has been an awesome journey. We are at season 6, and yet again, we have another powerful woman in the room. I cannot wait to introduce you to her. So before we go ahead, just before we get into introducing her, if you have not done it already, I want you to go right ahead, hit that subscribe button just down below and make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. All right, so let's head right in. Welcome to my beautiful guest. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for what tonight holds. Hello, everyone.
Yes, awesome to have you here too as well. So, Shernika, they are super excited. They can't wait to hear your story. They're just on the edge of their seats. I know it. But before we get started, I want you to start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I am a mother of multiple. I am the coach you need, your mind your words coach, your grief coach, your healing coach, trauma. You get so much of me. I am a wife of the one. I was twin mother. My God, so much. And I'm just excited because what God allowed that hurted me, He turned it into my positive, and I get to help others go through their grief in a different perspective. So that's a little bit about who I am. Also a caregiver, and I work with special needs. I call them my students, not clients. They're my students, and I'm their teacher. So I love it. And that's a little bit about me.
Wow. I just love how you just rattle it all off. Where do you find the time to do all of that stuff?
And I forgot to mention I'm a writer as well, speaker. So much. The list goes on.
I know.
God trusted me with all of this, and I just love to be surrounded by women such as yourself, because it empowers me to go more. Go, sometimes we feel so stretched and you don't have the time, but then you show up and you encourage me more than you know what all the many hats that you wear. So thank you for
Wow.
your yes. Honestly, thank you for your
Yeah.
yes.
Oh wow. You are so welcome. So I know you have an awesome, powerful story to share here with us tonight. I want you to start from the beginning and just tell us where it all started for you.
Oh my Lord, as far as my main story, because we're all full of so many. But my main story that I really love to empower the world with is about how I became a NICU mother. I was 21 years of age, and I thought I had to have a bowel movement. And yet I was going into labor at just 23 weeks of 23 weeks old. I was just 23 weeks, barely 6 months. And I went to one hospital. I was 4 centimeters. The next hospital, 2 hours away, I was then 8 centimeters. And I'm just like, the doctors was huddled in the corner, and it was like, she's 8 centimeters. And I'm like, excuse me, like I'm at a restaurant. Excuse me, did you guys just say I was 8 centimeters? I said, because I know at 7 there's no turning back. So did you just say 8? And they're like, yeah, you're pretty far, pretty fast. And I'm like, oh God. And I just was so scared because I'm 23 weeks. I'm a first time mom. I'm carrying twins. And I just found out maybe like 2 months prior to this, I'm going into early labor, that I was carrying two. So it's just like, so much at one time. And it was just like, I was even at a hotel. It was so many layers. So it's just like the stress was there. And it's just like, wow. But God really turned that thing so many times. But it was this one doctor told me it's a strong possibility that they will be dead when they come out of you. I mean, and I was by myself. My husband couldn't come yet. My mom wasn't there yet. Everybody was on their way. And they allowed no one to go in the ambulance with me. So I was horrified. And thank God I knew Jesus, because I feel like I would have flatlined if I never knew him, just in the transport alone. However, the lady kept saying one thing, and it's very important for us to stop people when they speak over us, because she kept saying, I'm pretty sure it's a strong percentage, all these different things. Your medical says this, but my God says that. And I said, I hear what you're saying. However, God knows what I can take. And she looked at me like, what? I said, I know what you're saying, but God knows how much I can take. And long story short, they were both dead. But God shielded me. He shielded me. My son Jeremiah, who's with God now full time, he came out and his little hand was shaking, and I didn't know. And I said, God, I just thank you for the unknown, And then my son, Kamir, who's still with us physically, um, they had to do chest compression. So he was a little bit more healthier because Jeremiah came out of the sack and busted open. There was a lot going on. But I said, God, I thank you because You protected me from the unknown. I spoke, God knows what I can take, and he did, because I believe to this day that I would not be here if I would have seen both of them lifeless. And if I was here, I know for sure I'd be in a crazy home to this day. So I thank God for protecting me from the unknown. When you really speak a thing, you believe it, because I said, God knows what I can take. And her medical was right, but my God still was right to protect his daughter. So that was one big part of my story. And I got to hold my son Jeremiah at 20 days. However, on day 15, they were trying to force me to pull the plug because he hadn't peed in 12 hours. And I just started praying. And I said, God, please, God, please. And it just was so beautiful. When you call on God's name, my God, when you called on his name and you believe, my God, Mark 11:23, when you speak to that mountain and you believe with no doubt, my God, watch that thing that you spoke come to pass. And when I said, God, please, he heard his daughter's cry. And I just was like, Jesus, please just let him pee. And they just was telling me, pull the plug. He's not responding. And I just said, just give me a moment. The machine is doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Just give him a moment. And I prayed over that baby. And I just started cleaning up in this one little room they allowed me and my husband to stay in. And I went back in there and they said, well, Mom, we got some news. And I'm like, they said, well, he peed, but it wasn't. I said, he peed. I didn't care what it was. You told me to give up on him because he hadn't peed in 12 hours. His kidneys are shutting down, Mom. Just let him go. No, I'm not. I said, now, if everything stops working, the machine stops working, and nothing's going on, then I have no choice. But right now, no. My son is looking at me. He's responding to me. I'm not doing it. And when I tell you, I thank God to this day that I believe, like that NICU, neonatal intensive care unit, I never knew about it until I had to be about it. Never heard of it. What is this life? It's like how people talk about aliens, and it's like, listen, they're not real. The NICU life was like just like that, a UFO. Never heard of it. It was strange. But yet, once you're there, you have no choice but to believe. And I'm like, whoa. And they kept asking me, how old are you? And this and that, and try to get in my head and try to add more things like, oh, the demoness on this and this, like all these medical terms. And I'm like, well, that just means he's swollen. That just means blood on the brain. Like, stop trying to talk to me when other people come that you can intimidate by these words. I know all of this right now because these children are my life, okay? So stop telling me the same thing that's been going on since they've been here. And that really just taught me even more to straighten up. Like, I thank God I knew God before the storm when the doctors was beating me down saying, let him go. This is not going to happen. And it was not day by day. It was, oh my gosh, almost minute by minute, touch and go. 1 minute they're okay. The next minute somebody saying, oh, they're bagging your child. Woo! All right, God, what is this? And I was praying into other people, my God. And I said, it was nothing, my God. People thank me to this day. I said, don't thank me. It was God. I wanted to crawl up and die. I wanted to feel sorry for myself. Yet God said, I have you on a mission, letting the non-believer know to believe in me. Because science said this, but God turned that. Listen, I'm just so full because people may say, oh, I'm sorry for your loss. And I said, I was lost and I was sorry. But I know where my son resides. On the 20th day, I got to hold my son. It was October 30th, 2012. And I thought it was a joke because usually I lift him up and the nurses, they'll clean up his little NICU, his little incubator. And this one nurse said, Mom, can you? I said, yeah, that's what I usually do. And before I know it, she lifted him up. And I was so upset. I'm like, I usually do what you're doing. Whole time God was setting me up for the best moment of my life. And she was like, oh, put him down. After I cleaned inside the isolate, I cleaned inside that day. And then she placed him back down. She said, Mom, would you like to hold him? As she's walking away. So I'm like, is she joking? And I'm like, are you serious? Are you joking? And I'm like, I don't know if she is or not. And they always tell me, they feed off your energy. So try to be as positive as you can. So I always tell everybody, if you got something negative to doctors, everybody, go over there and we'll talk. Don't talk these bad stuff around them. So that day I'm crying. And this is the first time I ever literally cried by him because I didn't want him to get upset. I said, Mommy's about to hold you. I don't know if this is for real or what, but I think Mommy's about to hold you. And he's just looking at him. We're both so excited. And I'm just like, the levels were perfect. I mean, my children were 1 pound, 3 ounces and 1 pound, 5 ounces. That is micro preemie. Anything under 3 pounds, they were 2.8 together. So when I tell you people don't understand the magnitude of what that means to be able to kangaroo your child, that means everything is perfect today and you get to have an experience you'll never forget. So when she said, do you want to hold your child? I was like, that means you're perfect today. Everything's perfect today. And I got to hold him. And it was surreal. And I shared with my husband, and he says, "Is everything okay?" Because they just were trying to give up on him about 5, 7 days ago. And I was like, "Yes, don't ruin my moment. Let me have my moment." And it was later on that evening I called to check on him because I was going to stay the night anyway. So they was like, "Well, something's wrong. You know, one of your son's not doing too well." And I said, "My son, I have two. Be more specific." They said, "When Jeremiah." And I'm like, "Jeremiah, I just held him earlier. Everything was perfect. What do you mean?" And it's just like, okay. So when I got there, everything was off for him. And I'm just like, put the leaves back on. What are y'all doing? Put stuff on. Like, I just felt like y'all got your moment. You finally got what you wanted. My best friend and my mother tried to prepare me. And I'm just like, they're not going to die. And to this day, I said, my son didn't die. And I'm the mind your worries coach. I make you mind your worries because he is living in another dimension, limitless from every limitation every doctor put on him. And it's just like, when you speak that, oh my gosh, that just helps me grieve so much better. They gone, they passed, they died. Won't come out of my mouth because that is not my truth. And I know my son was an innocent, beautiful, perfect little baby who is now residing where we all wish to go one day, you know? So that was a huge part. And for a long time, I couldn't, like for 3 days, it didn't seem like a lot, but it was a lot. My husband got 3 days of bereavement from Walmart. And I couldn't go see our son Chimera for those 3 days. And for years, it ate me up. I mean, I kept trying and kept trying. But it's the emptiness, the empty space of not having him, Jeremiah, there. I'm just like, ah. So, and I used to be upset with my husband that he didn't cry like I cried and grieve like I grieved. But God showed me years later, if he had, you would have been crazy. And I'm like, oh, well, honey, thank you for grieving the way you grieve. And God told me that, you know, he grieved just like you grieved, just differently. And I thank him because if he grieved like I grieved, nobody would have been there for Chimera. Chimera probably would have been in the foster care or something. Like, I don't know. I don't know if his godmother would have stepped up, but you know, I just thank God because the very thing you can complain about, I mean, I complained for years. How dare you not cry with me? I mean, I complained for years. And I can imagine how that even made him feel, me just speaking it aloud. Like, dang, that was my son. Yes, I love him, but I wanted him to grieve like I grieved. I wanted to feel like I needed to see tears. But God told me years later, no, you did not, because that would have really sent you. And I'm like, whoa. So that is a huge part of my story. And that's how I became the grief coach and the mind your worries coach. Because many times people speak to you after someone transitions and they're like, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, or it's okay, or you can reproduce. And all these things are not good things. God makes some mistakes. I don't want to hear that because I felt like he did. And that's my truth. Some people are scared to speak that. I felt like God made a mistake. I'm like, they say you're not supposed to question God. Would you not question your father? I questioned him. Daddy, what is this? And what, I mean, what you trying to show me? Because I thought you knew more. I thought you knew that what I could bear. And you really got to know me better than I know me because this is too much. I can't bear this. I can't bear this. So it was a lot. And I had all kinds of crazy thoughts. But God, he literally centered me. He saved me. And so the very thing that you want to be ashamed of and hide, it's something that you can tell later because it's going to help somebody else know, oh my God, okay. I wasn't alone in those thoughts. I wasn't alone in that pain. I wasn't alone in this circumstance. You really have to connect to God even when you're mad with him. Because I was real mad with him. But the devil had me cut God off. But yet I still was ministering to other people. Like God was like, girl, bye, I'm in you. I'm in you. But I just didn't spend my time with him. But yet I still read the word of God to my son every day. And that's one thing I used to do with both of my children. I would read them a storybook and the word of God every day. In year 6 of my son transition, God told me, you prepared him to go to me. And I was like, what? Now, if he would have told me that in year 1 through 4, I would have probably been in the crazy home again. But year 6, I was healed enough to receive. Daughter, you prepared him to go with me because you studied and read the word. And the funny thing is, when I would read the word of God to Jeremiah, he would be all in my face. When I would read the word of God to Chimera, he could care less, but he loved the storybook. But when his brother transitioned, oh, he was for the Bible. And I'm just like, God, you're amazing. You are so amazing because God was showing me then and he just kept extending me more time. And one thing I like to say, because sometimes we can pray, God, please heal this person. God, please heal this person. God, please heal that person. He did. My story is he healed my son in his own way, his perfect timing. He gave me what I needed to go on. And he healed my baby. Many people may say, God, how you do? You know, I asked for my mom to be healed and you took her home.
Yeah.
I mean, and home is what? No sorrow, no pain. Listen, no struggle. So I mean, God did what you asked,
Yeah.
just in His own perfect
Wow.
way.
Wow,
So,
that's just powerful. So what were some of the things that you were able to do to help you to get through? Because I know you shared so far, it was definitely not easy, but what were
no.
some of the things or some of the persons who you could have leaned on to help you through, that transitional phase of your life?
Um, Honestly, when I was in it, Kishma, I felt like nobody was there. And that's one thing I try to tell my people that I coach now. People are there. I promise you, we all have at least one or two people who is trying their best to be there. However, we could be so hardened by the struggle, by the pain, by the grief, so consumed that we can't even see those little bit of reaches. So I felt like it was nobody, honestly, but I know for sure I had my husband. I know for sure I had my mother, my sisters, my mother-in-law. She sat there with us and she held onto my arm and she just was quiet. And to this day, I'm like, God, I thank you because all you have to do is sit quietly sometimes. Sometimes it's just a presence, just your mere presence of being there with somebody. And I even teach different ones. Like I had an Uber driver was telling me about his daughter whose husband got killed, and that was my cousin. I'm like, listen, just text her every day or every other day and let her know you love her. Bring by some food randomly. Don't keep calling her because in those times you don't want to talk to people. You don't even want to see yourself. You don't want to take care of what you need to take care of. But if you have a record of this person cares every other day, they're checking on me. I just show a record because sometimes a call is too much. You don't have the words, and then you give the words, and now they're blowing up and undoing the work that they had already tried to keep and have. But who was really there? I would say my mother in law, definitely, because just her silence was everything to me. And I would say my family, friends, and strangers. Oh my gosh, the Nikki life was really it. The Ronald McDonald House. That was a safe house. And I met so many people, children 9 years old with cancer and cry with their grandparents and their mothers. And I mean, it was just like the Ronald McDonald House really was key for us who was there because that was like my safe house. Everybody was going through something. And like when I got discharged, I kind of didn't even want to be discharged because now I'm out into the real world where everybody looking like, oh, hey, well, he's home. Everything's okay. But it's not because now it's a new reality. I had to unpack that I really just had one child coming home. So that was a whole nother situation. But I said the Ronald McDonald House was my top support and my husband because although he didn't grieve the way I grieved, he grieved the way that helped me still be okay. So, yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. So how long did it take you to grieve? How long did that take you?
Hey, I'm going to say 4 years strong. And I say grief is an ongoing process. However, for me to be healed enough to share and not cry and break down, 4 years strong. Year four was like finally, like it was 4 years. And it was just so much for me and my husband trying to unpack things. And we really had, like, we were bumping his and didn't understand why because he was blaming himself and I was blaming myself. And then we were clashing. So it's just like you really have to communicate, is what I would say. Communicate to your partner if anyone out here has gone through, their infant, their child, whatever age, their loved one going on to be with God full time. I would say communicate with your spouse. Don't just assume they feel this way or assume they know how you're feeling. Communicate because when me and my husband started to share our hearts, it's just like it was the same. We're not each other's enemy. We're in the same camp. But when you really say, God, I need you because I can't. Like I really told God I wanted to kill myself. I'm like, Daddy, how can I kill myself? He said, you can't. I said, this pain is too much. He said, give it here. I'm like, oh, you just got all the answers. He said, I do. That's just this walk with God is just so amazing. And all I can say is if you don't know him, you have to, because everything depends on it. Everything. My mindset, my heart posture. Listen, my child who is still here. It all depends on it. Like he don't want to read a word sometime, but guess what, son? That's what saved your life. You're reading the word of God. God literally kept us. He literally kept us. And when I say I just like God, I want to hang myself, but I don't like to be choked. I want to overdose, but I don't even have pills. Should I drown in the tub? Like it was so much. And it was just like God was saying, you feel this pain. You want to numb your pain, but guess what? Somebody needs what's in your belly. Somebody needs that purpose that's going to come out of this as you continue to render it over to me day in after day out. You have to invite God in. God, take my heart. I'm mad with you, God. I am. Be honest with him because he already knows. I mean, I told him, God, I mean, what is this? Why? Like people would tell me, it takes a special person to have twins. I said, how special you got to be to keep them? For a long time, I felt that. For a very long time, I felt that. And I would even go to the Ronald McDonald house and see people with their twin boys and get mad with them. They're calling their kids names, and I'm just like, girl, they're right there. Why are you hollering? And I said, ooh, Jesus showed me myself. Ooh, Father, forgive me. And help me celebrate those people. I love you. Enjoy your double. It's a lot. But yeah, it was so much. But God is so good when you really give him all. The only way you will not heal is if you will not. I teach my clients this all the time: to face, the feel, the heal. Because for years I was trying to hide that thing. I was trying to hide and just keep going. And then I was breaking down at the grocery store. I'm like, this is not good. And I really felt like I was being punished because everywhere I turned, it was twin boys. I mean, everywhere I turned, it was twin boys. The grocery store, the laundromat, the Ronald McDonald house, my new admissions. I'm just like the hospital. And I'm just like, what did I do, God? What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? I mean, it's one thing you done took him, but I mean, and he was like, it was so funny because God humbles you. I said, God, why did you take my son? He said he was mine. He was yours on borrowed time. I said, oop, you got it. You got it, Daddy. You are so right. He was yours before you placed him in my womb. You formed him to be able to place him. So God took that. He was mine, just yours on borrowed time. Be honest with where you are, because for like a whole week, the lady at the front desk who was there the night of everything, she kept saying, "Hi, Miss Roberts. How are you? Are you doing okay today? Everything all right?" Every day I told her I'm okay. That seventh day, I snapped. I said, "No, I'm not okay, and I'm tired of lying. Stop asking. Would you be okay? Would you?" And it's just like every time I saw her, I saw the whole night replay itself. And then the doctor who was there for like 2 weeks at a time after my son transitioned. I just felt like, okay, you're haunting me at this time. When you keep looking at me like, leave me alone. Everybody, just leave me alone. I'm here for my child. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see you. Just leave me alone. And it was just a lot. But in that moment, it taught me, stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. It's not going to make you get better. You got to face that truth of I'm not okay. And that's what I teach my people too. It's okay to not be okay. However, you just cannot stay there. It's okay to not be okay. Your child went on. You gave birth early. The first day you held them, now that was your last hold. It's a lot to unpack. This is your first pregnancy. You're only 21. Your husband works in Rehoboth, lives in Georgetown. You're all the way in Newark. We've never been apart since we've been together. So it's just like I really didn't know how to act, but yet God had me show up every day. He had me show up. I was in his face more than ever. And sometimes God has your world be rocked so you know that he is the rock. When people say, I'm at rock bottom, it's all right to me as long as you know who that rock is. It's not that bad when you know God is that good and he is that rock at the bottom waiting for you. Waiting for you. He really is. But you got to connect to him and not hit him and be mad. Like you can have those moments and God will give you grace. But then he's going to say, okay, enough. Let's come on and push through because somebody needs your healed version. Somebody needs your healed version to go ahead and know that they too can make it. So my story is somebody's God to know. If she did, so can I. Because God has no respectable person. If he did it for me, if he allowed me, people would say, who, you, Shernika? You stopped going to church? You didn't believe in God? Like you were mad? You told God why? Yes, I did. So those who say don't question him, I say you don't believe he's your father, because any real child's going to give you some questions. My child's perfect proof. He wants to know everything. I'm like, all right, son, enough. So if you believe God is your daddy, ask him those hard questions and be prepared for the answers. Because sometimes we don't ask him the questions because we're not prepared for those answers. Sometimes you're like, oh, don't question God because you're afraid of it's going to require more out of you and you're comfortable being stagnant. Ask him those questions. Let him show you yourself. And I promise you he's going to help you get through. Thank you.
Wow, that's just that's a lot. I know you guys are enjoying this. Go ahead and keep screen your comments. We want to see your comments. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you're thinking. This is such a powerful story. And if you are on the line right now and you have walked through this, or you are currently in this place right now, I want you to be encouraged, be encouraged by her story as she's sharing here tonight, because just like she has been able to overcome, so can you. So I have to ask this question, because you said something just a few moments ago in terms of, with your marriage. How did the passing of your son affect your marriage?
We wasn't married yet, and I didn't know if we was going to get there. Um, that is my complete truth. Just last week, my husband was saying, I was talking about how we got here. I said, honey, I thank God for where we are. And he said, yeah, it's a miracle. And I'm like, excuse you? And he's like, no offense, babe. I'm just saying, we gone through our child going to God. So anything after that, I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. I understand. But honestly, we were together 2 years before we had children. So our third year of being together, we had our children. And it was early, and circumstance wasn't the best, and it was a lot he was trying to balance to get us a place and all this. I'm like, honey, you have, what is it? I said, honey, you got at least 4 or 5 months. And then the next month I went into early labor. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so much. That alone for him was just terrible as a man when they have our foundation together. But as far as our relationship with our child transitioning, I feel like it barely made it until he really got more on the course of, I have to give God my all, because I was brought up with God more than he was. So I had God be my foundation more. And he just was like, I got to work. The way that he agreed was just working. And so he would spend a little bit of time with our child and stuff, but mainly he was working. I was waking up every day to go to the hospital for doctor's appointments and all these things. I was burned out, and I was trying to have him on a schedule, and then he would break the schedule because he'd barely seen him. So that alone was terrible. However, it just was like, I put my all into the child too. That was one thing too. I didn't even really think about us, like us having time or anything like that. And later on, I realized that because when we came out of the hospital, me, him, and my mother-in-law had a place together, and then everybody moved in. So that was a big factor, because I didn't really have the one-on-one time. He was trying to spread his stuff out to help everybody else. And then I just stopped caring, and I just was like, this is what I have. This is what I have. And it was our son. And I just put everything into him. And I was losing myself. I was losing our relationship. I just was like, this is what I have. And then he was doing the same thing. This is what I have. And it was just like we both was giving everything that we had to the most that we could to the child. And I tell you, when we got our own place and then we started to see those holes that we didn't really pay attention to. But once it was just me, him, and the child, and we started to see, okay, when the child is asleep, you're playing a game, I'm in the room reading the word. It's just like we saw the division once it was only us. And then that's when we started to come together more, like, okay, babe, I can read a word with you. I understand you don't want him waking up, but some days I need a little bit more time with him. I'm like, okay, I got it. So we both had a compromise and come to our understanding that we have more than just a child. We have each other and we have him. And it wasn't that he was a child that was left, because a lot of people said, yeah, at least you have one left. We had to keep saying, you're not what's left. You're not what's left. You're not less than. Like, I always spoke that over him. We both say, you're not what's left than. You're not what's left, and you're not less than. You are Chimera, and we love you for who you are. And Jeremiah is Jeremiah, and we love him for who he is. And somebody asked me, do you see Jeremiah when you see Chimera? I said, I see Chimera when I see Chimera. I said, were they twins? Yes. And the funny thing is, I had a weird case. They were both inside of one room. And they said maybe they were identical, but we wouldn't know until 30 days. However, when Jeremiah transitioned, that's the face I get to see today. And that was another layer of breathing. I'm like, God, what is this? He really, like, literally the day Jeremiah transitioned, that's the same face I get to wake up to every day with Chimera. And I said, I still don't see Jeremiah when I see you. I see you. But that was just God showing me that you guys were identical. And even identical twins have different behaviors, different personalities, different sense of style. I said, so don't ever think that you're your brother, or you have to be in his shadow, because Chimera's the youngest by 13 minutes. And I always say that. Like, people see her, I be like, you're the youngest Chimera, he's the oldest. 13 minutes count. But yeah, God is just amazing. And I thank God that we are more than overcomers, and not some things, but in all things, because death couldn't hold us down. It brought us up. I mean, we were down, but it didn't hold us there
That's
because
right.
we exalted God. And when you put God over everything, you always going to come up on top, no matter what it is. Like I always say, God rose on the third day to show us that not even death could keep us from the love that He has for us. The third day, God rose and said, I love you too much, Kushima. I love you too much, Shanika. I love you guys too much for me to allow this to happen, for me to allow this to keep me down.
Wow, that's just beautiful. I just really want to say thank you for being, so transparent and so open with your story, because I know most persons, it's a very sensitive topic to want to share on. So I really want to thank you for being open, because I know that some woman right now who is watching, that she is really being encouraged and she's been lifted and inspired. I'm reminded of who she is and who God has called her to, just because you decided to share.
My
So
God.
we're coming close to the end, but I have to ask this question. When you look back at everything that you have been through, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Um, yes. I feel like I would have talked to my husband a lot sooner. I would have opened up to I would have opened up to him and let him know how I feel, because I feel like that would have saved us years of grieving in the opposite direction, of being in the same room but having silent time unless we really were dealing with the child. Like it was a lot of this when it could have been this if I would have just opened my mouth and spoke and said, this is how I feel, and had an ear to listen. Because sometimes we can be quick to speak, but be, quick to not listen as well. God says to be slow to speak and quick to listen. So if I would have just spoke to my husband and let him know this is how I feel, even if I felt like he wouldn't hurt me, if I would have wrote a letter, because I'm the romantical, write a letter, write a poem stuff. So even if I would have wrote him a letter and let him know this is how I feel, and by no way is it your fault or mine, because we both was in grief of it's my fault for years. So the thing I would have done different was open up to my husband because sometimes we feel like, well, sure, you know me, but every day we're changing. And one thing grief will do is change you. People feel like, who are you? Like the person people knew before I became a mother, let alone a mother of an angel, they don't know. You got to relearn me because, baby, I'm changing daily. So my husband definitely changed and I changed. And it's just like, we were not the same people who went into this relationship, not even the same people who had twin boys. Because on the 20th of October 2012, everything changed. I even felt bad because I held him and he didn't, so that was a lot. I
Wow.
felt bad for having that moment, even though I enjoyed it, but I'm like, I wish he would have had it, you
Yeah.
know.
Wow.
So
So, having learned everything that you have been through so far, as you shared your story here with us tonight, can you tell us some of your takeaways or your lessons that you've learned from that journey? So for that woman right now who's watching and they're right where you were, what are some of those takeaways that you would love to share with them that they can be encouraged?
forgive yourself. It's not your fault. God has need of you. This was God's purpose, His plan. It's nothing that you could have done differently to allow your child to still be here another moment. Because 50 Cent is living proof that if God still wants you here, you're going to be here. That man got shot up many times, but yet God still has him here. So forgive yourself and know that if God didn't will, if God didn't want it, then it's not. That's one thing that I had to keep saying to free me. If God still wanted him here, because I did a lot of prayer and I felt for years, my Lord, I know I'm a woman of faith. I believe for years, all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, did I not believe enough? Because I literally did a lot of prayer, but said my son's name. And I'm just like, I blame myself. Did I not believe enough? I mean, my body didn't hold him long enough. Like so many things. So forgive yourself. Soon as guilt try to come on, snatch it down. Say, guilt, you are a liar, and put the word of God on it. Put the word of God on it. Because I can say something, but until I put God's word on it, it's not valid. But I say something, I add scripture to it to secure it. Because I will let myself down, I will let my husband down, but God never lets us down. So his word really helps secure it all for me. Forgive yourself. Even if you feel like, well, I could have done better in my pregnancy or whatever it was, forgive yourself. It is key to going forward in this journey of grief, to forgive yourself and ask God the questions. Don't be afraid of God's answers. Ask him questions and even let him know, God, I'm mad with you. because he will give you grace. I promise you, he gave me grace. And I'm to this day, I still say, God forgive me, because I was bad. And he's God forgive me. He's just like, it's been in the sea. What are you talking about? It's in that sea. What are you saying? So just forgive yourself. Invite God in. Ask him the questions. And be real with yourself. Don't say you're okay if you're not. Because sometimes we get mad with those around us and they're like, you can't see me hurting. No, because you keep telling me you're fine. You keep telling me I'm just fine. I got it. Everything. But I mean, I was used to being this strong tower for everybody. And then my storm came that rocked my world. And I felt like y'all could have reached a little bit more. I mean, I might have laid you out a couple times, but at least text me and said, girl, you mean, but I love you. I'm praying for you. I mean, give me a record of texting saying I got you. Send me $10 because honey, it was hard to eat. Send me a few dollars and say, take care of yourself. God got you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. So you shared earlier about all these things, amazing things that you are doing. So tell us what's new for you, what's upcoming, what are you working on, and let us know where we can find you for those persons who are watching right now and they're like, oh my goodness, I want to connect with her because there's just so much about what she shared tonight that really relates with me. I want to be able to learn more about what she does.
The easiest one is Facebook, which is Shernika, the name on the screen, Shernika Roberts Blake. I'm on Instagram at the coach you need 30. And I'm also on TikTok as Shernika Roberts Blake. So if you guys want to be comfortable and just just find me on Facebook, that probably be the easiest, Shernika Roberts Blake, and I will message you back. And if you guys need coaching, anything, just let me know because God is doing some things and he's scared. Like he will show you just how much he has grown you when you go into a situation. Like to talk about all of this, I'm like, God, you're amazing. And some people may say it's been 11 years, but baby, some days it feel like yesterday. But God, he's really amazing. And I'm working on a few things, some books, even writing some things with my husband, my son, everything. But one of them that I definitely have to get out this year is Mind Your Words, What Not to Say to a Grieving Heart. And that happened in the incubator of the Nikki. Mind your words, but not to say to a grieving heart. That one, be on the lookout for that. I promise you, it's going to change your mind. It's going to change your perspective. It's going to change your heart posture, and it's going to heal you. Like I thought God had me right now to heal you all. He started healing me, and I'm like, ah. So it's been in the works for about 4 years because it's just that deep. But I'm telling you, this year, be on the lookout for mind your words, but not to say to a grieving heart. Thank you all for your time. I love you.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So just before we go, it may be something that I didn't get to answer, but something that's probably resting on your heart. You're like, oh, I really wanted to say that to them. I want you to go right ahead and then share your final words with our audience here tonight and let them know what words you have to share with them.
It gets better, and the it is you. It gets better, and the it is you. Because one thing I hear a lot with my clients, with friends, with family that have been grieving their children, especially infant loss, is really huge. Time heals all wounds. Y'all lie. Said time heals all. I mean, I've seen that bitter saying out in the atmosphere, and it bothers me so greatly. And I have to correct people and say time alone does not. It's what you do with that time. If I would have just been rehearsing what happened for 11 years, I would have had no healing. I couldn't be no good to anyone. However, I decided to welcome God into my time, welcome God into my tears. And that's one thing I want to tell you guys. For years, I was crying aimlessly and I was getting frustrated like, God, I'm sick and crying. I'm sick and tired of crying. And he said, well, you're feeling sorry for yourself. And I'm like, and you're not giving them tears to me. You're just crying to cry. So when I put a direction on my tears, that changed my life. Put a direction on your tears. Say, God, here are my tears of frustration, my tears of pain, everything. Say, God, here it is. I need you to take them, give it to him, and leave it there. Don't give it to him and come back for it. Trust that he has it and he can do so much better with it than you ever can.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, guys, you have heard tonight a powerful story from our beautiful guest, Shernika. She has shared with you, her powerful story, not just a story, but a testimony to what and who God is and what God has done in her life. I know that you are enjoying. And if you have not shared this link as yet, then what are you waiting for? Go right ahead and share, 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 share. Make sure that you invite a friend so that they can come and tune in. And if you're now joining us, not to worry, the link will still be up so you can come back and rewatch as many times as you wish. But make sure you're commenting below because we're going to check the comments and we want to hear from you. So, Shernika, thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Yes, for sharing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Guys, we will be back here once again. Continue to join us here every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. as we continue the series of Battered Bruised, Not Broken. And this is season 6. And it has been an exciting journey so far. And we can't wait to have you back with us once again. So see you very, very soon. Goodbye.